Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I have a fantastic guest today, and I'm really excited to speak to Aaron once again. Aaron Steele, coming from all the way from Australia. Thanks for being here.
How's it going?
Amazing. Love to get a chance to chat again. I felt like we've already done a podcast together, but really good to reconnect and excited to dig in. I love when guests have a chance to introduce themselves. So why don't you let people know what you do?
Yeah, hi, my name's Aaron. I do a lot of things. I guess the stuff that I'm probably most well known for online, at least, is I do a lot of AI and automation guides, specifically around content marketing automation. Write pretty regularly on LinkedIn, putting together guides basically on how to create content using automated platforms such as Zapier and plugging ChatGPT and things like that into the process. Beyond that, I also like to have conversations like this. I like to meet new people and just sort of have chats. Guess personal life, standard old married with 2 kids, 2 cats and a dog. Otherwise, I'm a pretty normal, ordinary person outside of all this kind of stuff. Yeah, and I'm happy to jump in and have a conversation.
Amazing. Let's dive right into what you're good at. How did this all come to be? I know you've been working on processes in general for a long time. Tell me a bit about the journey to where you are now.
Yeah, so it goes back quite a ways. Back in 2013, so my wife and I had moved to Canberra, which is the capital of Australia, not Sydney, and which is where she's from. So it wasn't a completely random move. We'd just come back from an overseas extended holiday, and I was wanting to set up my own business. I was 23 at the time, so I didn't really know what I was doing. Not saying other 23-year-olds don't know what they're doing, but I certainly didn't. And I set up a business, like an online directory, which seemed like a good idea at the time. It was for cleaning businesses. I thought that made lots of sense and had it all planned out. And obviously that didn't really eventuate. Like I set up all these different systems to have an automated workflow. So whenever someone submitted a form on the website, it would get passed through to other systems. And I pieced that all together. Like Zapier was pretty new at the time. So I worked through how to connect all that up using Zapier and just figured it out as I went. And ever since then, I've always really enjoyed using automation platforms like Zapier to connect things and just make workflow automation really easy. And I moved into a career in business analysis not long after that. And so that a lot of that has been involved with working through like tech problems with people. Like they've got a particular business problem and they need to solve it with some kind of technology solution. And my role has usually been to apply technology solutions to business problems. That's a very high level summary of the last 10 years. And the last couple of years, it's been ramping up, especially with things like ChatGPT and just getting involved in that and seeing how much we can get out of it, diving deeper than just write me a blog post kind of thing, like actually seeing what it can be used for to extract structured data out of unstructured text and things like that, which happy to get into that. But it's a really powerful tool, which I think like where we feel like it's already saturated because people like and I are working with it all the time, but we're still like definitely like the front runners. Like most people are not using it at all. So it's a really exciting time to be involved in this kind of thing.
I like to think that if you're spending any time with a tool, you're already in the 1%. And if you're spending time automating and gluing a couple tools together using things like Zapier, then you're further down the line of probably 1% of that group, right?
Yeah.
We find ourselves in these bubbles of everyone I know talks about AI and is in the thick of it. But for the most part, these are a lot of new concepts for people. I imagine people listening let's talk about it at a high level. What are some of the problems that you've been able to solve using some tools to automate things for people?
Yeah, sure. I guess I've primarily worked with CRM platforms, which, if you're not aware, is, for anyone listening, is customer relationship management. Whenever you are working with a business and they have more than one client, they probably have a CRM where they keep all their customer data. And usually, like in, I guess, not that long ago, like all these systems, and it's still like this today, like all the different platforms that a business uses are not necessarily connected in like a meaningful way. And so you might have your accounting system in one part, which does the invoicing, and you've got your marketing platform in one area, and you've got your emails in another area, and your CRM in another platform again. And so all of these different systems are not communicating with each other. And so you've got to double handle, triple, quadruple handle the work as you get the leads coming through, and then you got to take that information out and put it in something else. And the work I've done primarily has been streamlining that process so that when you say, if you get a lead through your website, that will automatically feed in through to like the CRM. It will like populate a lead database with information about the lead. It will send other triggers off to other parts of the business. So it's taking that one action that was used to be manual and spreading the effects of the automation through the other parts of the business, so that it's reducing the amount of time people have to spend on what they're doing. And that can be things like automating reporting and all kinds of things. That's the CRM world has probably been my biggest, or rather longest time spent, I suppose. And just making sure that everything is actually connected and communicating with each other, which is huge.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I know, as far as solopreneurs listening, that you're either hiring someone to do it, as far as a task, got to get done, or you're finding a system or process to make it happen for you.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
People are generally more expensive over time. Not that there aren't place for people in business, but if someone's also having to do the same thing over and over again, it's probably not the most exciting part of their job.
Yep.
I see automation and these kinds of processes as really a win all around. You can find things that are a bit more creative or unique to a person's skill set that maybe they're better suited for, versus having them do something that a computer could do.
Yeah, that's right.
I see a ton of value in what you're doing, and there are some unique things that you've been able to do. Why don't we jump into some of that? The last conversation we had, you talked about taking a video input and turning it into a few different things for a business. And this was extremely fascinating. So maybe you want to explain what you were talking about.
Yeah, sure. The process that I've developed basically is a framework you could look at it with, would be like a content marketing automation. And so what I mean by that is there is such a strong need for content marketing for basically anyone who's anyone out there these days, like whether you're an individual, whether you're a brand. Like, it is really the only way to differentiate yourself in the marketplace these days is with your content. And so recognizing that, I saw a need in the market a little while ago for a way to lower or remove the barriers to entry for how people create that content. Because when you think about, there's Facebook, there's Instagram Reels, there's TikTok, there's Pinterest, there's Twitter or X, there's YouTube. There's so many platforms out there which people are on and should be on, but it's overwhelming to go, okay, I don't want to have to think about all these different platforms. I just want to focus on one and develop a following on that. Like I network with a lot of people who just focus on LinkedIn, and that's great. But getting your organic traffic sources from all the different platforms is such a significantly powerful tool rather than just focusing on one area. And the way that I've done that is I've taken the transcript from one video. So say I upload a video to the system, which is called Engine, which I've developed, ENDGN, and upload a video to that, and that will take a transcription from the video and then send that transcription through to ChatGPT utilizing Zapier for the process. It's not like a manually cutting and pasting it in. And from that saying, okay, basically the crux of what I'm doing is saying, okay, I want you to generate 3 articles based on the written style of what I've just given you, like the transcription, like here's my style, here's my unique voice, and here's a template of a good article. I want you to write 3 different articles based on 3 different templates that I'm feeding it. And this is 3 different conversations running in tandem. So it's not just one repeating itself. And then from that article, I then say, okay, I now want you to generate 10 like statements, like tweet length statements based on this article that I can publish. And then from that, I refine the syntax further to adjust it for Facebook and Instagram. And so basically from that video, we've gone and produced 3 articles, which is high quality articles. It's not just garbage, because AI, if it's not guided properly, can certainly write some pretty crappy stuff. But it's usually pretty good what comes out of here. Basically 30 tweets, and 30 seems like a lot, but it's actually Twitter, the Twitter attention span is like 30 seconds or something. So if you're not posting 30 times a day, you're not getting seen, basically, is from what I understand, like doing a bit of research in that area. 2 to 3 Instagram and Facebook posts, which is roughly the cadence that apparently is the good way to be posting. Don't want to be flooding your feed in that respect. As well as Pinterest, which is an interesting one, which is a lot more organic. And beyond just the text, I've also plugged in another image generation tool, because most of these are image-based platforms like Instagram, Facebook, even Twitter has a lot of image, and especially Pinterest, obviously. And so we'd take that statement that was generated and generate like a hook or something similar, and actually automatically transpose that hook or that statement onto an image. And that can be an image that is templated, it is templated. And whether that is a randomly selected stock photo based on the content of the article, or whether that's like a photo that I've already pre-selected, or pretty much whatever you want to put in there. And that basically will then generate an image, and then you can send that off, and you can schedule all of this stuff automatically as well. Like, it just looks for the next available time and posts it. So the net result is you've recorded one video. Like, it could be a video like this, or it could be like literally just you sitting down and talking at a camera and answering questions about a topic, and you've generated 30 tweets, 30 Pinterest pins, 3 articles, 3 Facebook and Instagram posts, and it's all been scheduled. And then on top of that, you can do like WordPress blogs as well, just as an afterthought. On top of that, you would also publish directly to a podcasting platform, and then also take the audio from that recording, publish that to a podcasting platform, and then cut the actual video into smaller sections using tools like Opus Clips or whatever, and post that out to your socials as well. And so you're leveraging like a 20-30 minute video, or an hour, depending on how long you want to do it, and you're producing such a armada of like high quality content. It's an extremely powerful lever that it makes it so much easier to create engaging content and then push it out there, and then you don't have to worry about, oh, have I posted to Twitter? Have I posted to LinkedIn? It's all just done. And yeah, that's basically the engine service that I've put together, it's really exciting. And I've waffled on a little bit there, apologies, but yeah, I quite enjoy talking about it.
No worries. It's very fascinating. I'm curious, what are the systems of checks before content goes out? How does that work?
Yes, I built in basically a Trello-based QA system, which is totally optional, but highly recommended. I once the content is generated, it comes into a staging list in Trello, and so I would see, and it sends a notification to my phone or the client's phone, whoever is using it. Comes through and says, okay, there's 30 cards in here which have the content. If we're generating images, the image will be attached to the Trello card. Excuse me, and you go through and you would say, okay, yep, I'm going to pick 3 of those. I'm going to label them. Those 3 posts that I really like they're the best ones. Also, I'm going to label those as Instagram and Facebook. Maybe get rid of 1 or 2. Occasionally, some come through that I'm like, no, that doesn't really make sense. But it's usually pretty good. And then just drop the rest of the list into my Twitter/Pinterest list, which will then automatically publish it out to Twitter and Pinterest, as well as anything that was labeled as Facebook and Instagram goes off there on a different workflow. So it does have that QA step where it is important to check and review, and you can edit them as well. It's not static, so you can go in and make changes if you need to, and the articles come through there as well. Yeah, I use Trello because it's got that easy sort of Kanban style, just like drop cards into different lists. But yeah, I've done any other platform, I suppose.
Just wanted to add that I've used Trello in the past for a similar QA for social media posts, and it's super easy. It's so easy. It's probably one of the easier ways, especially Trello has a really nice app that makes the user experience very simple. So I think it's a good choice for QA.
Yeah. I think the only thing I would mention about Trello is I totally agree. I love the app as well, and I use it on multiple devices. But I use another tool which is like $5, and this is like a little tip, I suppose, called Pushover. It's like a $5 app which is like a push notification app which you can integrate with Zapier. And so because usually Trello claims that they will push notifications to your phone when you get a new card, but it's never worked for me. I don't know why. And I want to know when my content is ready for me to review. And I just add a little pushover action at the bottom of my workflows in Zapier, so that once the card is done and is in the list, it then sends a notification to my phone letting me know, and I have a link to the Trello board there, so it's literally just a matter of there it is, and just open it up. Yeah, that's if you're having troubles with Trello not sending notifications to your phone, that's an easy fix.
I also know that you've been very generous with sharing. You've created some videos on your YouTube channel, as well as some lead magnets on Instagram there with videos that explain how to do a lot of this stuff. Most business owners love the idea, but don't really have the time to or maybe want to get into the weeds of how to do it. On the benefits side, what kind of time savings have you seen for businesses across some of these implementations?
Yeah, sure. So I guess it depends what they're looking at doing. For example, if we're looking at like the engine, the platform where you're creating social media content, it's something that people are not doing enough of anyway, and so it's not as though they're often taking hours of their time each week to create content. It's usually something that they're like, I should be doing this, but I'm not, and I just don't have the time. And so it's more that kind of thing. Is more like, here's a way you can leverage your time rather than save it in another way. And I'm sure I know some businesses are not like that, and then they do create content, in which case this does save them time. But for other processes, if you're wanting to, just trying to think of a recent use case that I had. So, for example, if you're using something like Salesforce, which is a CRM platform, if you're using something like that and they getting their leads into Salesforce, and then they're having to manually work through the different processes and fill it all out. You can basically listen to get the transcription from a sales call and automatically pass the information from that sales call and just put it straight into the appropriate lead forms. And then also based on the conclusion that's extracted from that, you can then push that lead through to the right process. The right stage. So rather than going in after the call and going, okay, now what did they say? And is this closed won or is this in progress or whatever like this? It listens to the call and then will just automatically push it through based on the sentiment analysis of what's happened there. So it's really just you're focusing on actually closing the sale or nurturing the lead rather than doing all the data entry. Yeah, like that data entry piece. Like I did do some content around how to do that, but yeah, it's a massive time suck for a lot of people, like just sitting down and having to input and data into their platforms. But you can use your voice to just talk to it, and if you've got it set up properly, it can take that voice data, transcribe it, and turn that into commands and information to automatically put into your platforms. So that's an exponential time saver for sure if it's implemented properly.
Yeah, I'm constantly wrestling with things that I need to be doing administratively versus figuring out how to not do them administratively. Like where's the time better spent on investing in figuring out how to automate something, or just hiring someone to have it automated, or going through the same repetitive process of doing that thing. I've been in automation and this type of thing for a long time, and I still get excited about businesses like saving time on tasks. ChatGPT has just made that exponentially more interesting because there's far more use cases. Do you find that a lot of the work that you're doing is more bespoke? You have to build something custom, or is Engine set to work with most people's kind of standard multiple platforms? And have you got it worked out where this is what 90% of people are going to want it for?
Yeah. So, I mean, it comes down to the prompting, right? So I've got the prompts written in such a way that it will cover 80-90% of use cases. Like it's not going to misunderstand or struggle with anything really. I guess if you wanted to refine it further, I do have customization options where I can write bespoke prompts for people if they want to have a very specific kind of content that isn't necessarily going to be generated just based on the standard inputs. And yeah, but like most of the time it's just a matter of here's the context and that's a variable which comes from whatever input is coming in, and here's a template which is another variable, and here's what I want you to do, which is the prompt, and that typically doesn't really have to change. And so it's always, I guess the thing that changes is actually the tool itself. Like they're always releasing new versions. They don't really publish it on the web version of ChatGPT, but when you're using the API like I do, you can usually see like it's version 0.163 or something like that, which these incremental improvements that they are always releasing, which means you get more tokens, you get more speed and more understanding and that kind of thing. So it's always, I think, a matter of updating the tool or the way you're using the tool in order to better harness the power that's constantly growing. Yeah, like it's most people, I think, wouldn't need to adjust the prompts if they might think they do, but they probably don't.
Yeah, that customization question comes up down the road, right? It's not something that you really need to think about out of the gate. Where do people start with thinking about automating a process? Is it, I guess, it's Engine, so they start with the end goal in mind. Is that where you got the name?
So it's actually engine would be like phonetically like a car engine driving the process. Actually, I had the domain from originally saved for something else, but I was like, oh, this is
what is the domain?
It's endgn.com.
Nice, a 6-letter.com.
Yeah.
Those are always great.
Actually, it's 5 even. Yeah.
ENDGEN?
No, just GN.
GN. Oh, 5. Nice one.
Yeah. So yeah, if you go engine, yeah. So yeah, sorry. What was the question again? Like, how do they get?
What's the process to think about automation? How do you start as a business owner? Where do you begin?
I guess first thing that you would do, this sort of comes back to my experience as a business analyst as well, is you want to uncover and document the pain points. Yeah, there's the site there.
Might look a little different when people are visiting it, but here we are. Quick shout out.
Yeah, thanks. I threw that together last night, actually. So
it was ready for today.
Yeah. It's a bit of tongue in cheek saying, P.S. I'm not cheap. You want to be for any kind of project, you want there to be a well-established, a well-documented pain point. And so, if you're not trying to, if you're not spending money or you're not spending resources on solving a pain point, what are you doing really? Like, why are you doing it? And so, understanding what that pain point is. So, if there's our financial system takes too long, or like it doesn't do this, or we don't get enough data to use this other system properly. There's so many potential pain points out there, but honing in on what that pain point is and then building the automation from there, and like taking care to have a holistic view on how that affects the broader organization. If you're just a solopreneur, not just, but if you're a solopreneur and it's just you and maybe one or two offshore or resources, people that help you out, then you don't necessarily have to think about the broader context of the organization. But when you're working in a larger organization and you're saying, okay, we want to focus on fixing this pain point, like we don't like our recruitment processes, so let's completely automate that and just have a laser focused on fixing that. If you then, that's great. But if you do that without considering the broader context of the organization and say, okay, if we change the way we do our recruitment processes here and we ignore our HR processes, we ignore our onboarding processes, we're going to lose, and I hate using the word synergy, but it's going to break other processes in the organization. So it's really, we used to get people on this recruiting system, and that had a bit of a manual process to transfer their information to HR. But now that we've onboarded a new recruitment system, that doesn't talk to HR at all, but we didn't think about that because we just saw this shiny new software and we bought it. It's important to see the pain points, not just of the individual area that you're looking at, but also how they affect the broader organization. And then piecing together what capabilities are available. Every software vendor is going to say that they solve all of your problems, but they very rarely actually do solve all of your problems. There's almost always gaps between what you need and what they say they can actually do. It's important to just slow down, think about the problem, analyze it properly, and consider your options rather than just diving in and buying the first thing off the shelf, I suppose. That's just saying it's someone who's worked in countless IT projects where that's exactly what's happened.
And sometimes it's hard to know what you're going to come across down the road.
Exactly.
I was using Wix, their studio, their flagship product, and they've got real issues with subdomains.
Yeah.
And you don't find that out till you spend a bunch of time building something. Fortunately, you can always go back to something like WordPress and have pretty much the same thing done pretty quick. But to double your costs for each additional subdomain is
that's crazy.
Not at what I would say the market expects. When you get to that bridge, it's a bit of a surprise. And I understand the economics from a business model, or maybe they should be clearer about who it's for. Or I don't know, that kind of stuff. I hope people find out about it sooner so that if it's important to them, they don't waste their time.
Yeah.
So the lesson that I had was that. So I can totally relate to trying to make a decision based on all of the things you're going to need. It's often challenging on larger projects and things that may be unknowns or not important when you first start.
Yeah. And you often run into the sunk cost. I don't want to, it's usually called the sunk cost fallacy, but you keep persisting in the problem because you're like, I've already spent so much time and energy and effort on this, on making this work. That means I have to keep going. And so that's not necessarily the case. Like, you can actually backpedal and go, okay, if Wix or whatever, like, I'm not trying to pick on Wix here, but if they
Yeah, no, I like Wix. Anyone uses Wix, there's a reason why I decided to go with them in the beginning, right? They do a lot of things right.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
It's just in the once you get into using more advanced features, sometimes just based on what's available, it falls short, and it's just impossible to know ahead of time where that's going to come up for you.
Yeah, that's right. And that's going to be the case with, I think, just about any product. Like, I guess it's, like not being so tied to a particular product that your entire brand rests on utilizing that particular technology, because it's just a tool at the end of the day. You don't have to be married to it. Yeah, I use CARD, CARD, which is a great sort of one-page website builder. And I use it, like, I can build websites, I just don't like to. Like, I don't know, I find it, emotionally taxing. It's and you can't technically create pages in CARD, but you can get around that by just creating subdomains, which is what I've done on my site, which you loaded up just before. But if I didn't know how to do that, there would have perhaps been another solution to the problem, rather than just being like, oh, I have to have another page, which is what I originally thought. I need multiple pages on my site. I reframed the problem and said, well, actually, what I just need is another, like, UX area for my information where I want, like, people to progress through to another part of my site. And that doesn't technically have to be another page on the same domain. I can create a subdomain and have the same experience, the same layout, everything. And yes, technically it's a completely different website on the back end, but the user doesn't know that. And so the solution doesn't necessarily have to fit what you originally think the problem is. Yeah, there's multiple ways to solve a problem. It's just about thinking about how to fix it rather than just banging your head on the wall and saying, I can't fix it this particular way, so I'm going to throw the towel in. But yeah, there's always multiple ways to address things.
I imagine you come across different kinds of problems all the time. What are some of your maybe known or unknown approaches to solving problems at a high level?
So there are lots of problems. I'll break it into two categories. So if it's a problem that requires, like, just brain power and a bit of intellectual rigor and sitting down and working out the problem, and it's not something I necessarily expect other people to be involved in, I will just get a notepad and pen. Like, I love notepads and pens. Like, I literally, if you don't know what to get me for, not you, but if people don't know what to get me for Christmas or my birthday, pad and pen is literally like what I asked for, because I just love, I don't know if it's a tactile thing, but I love writing and using that. And I've solved most of my problems that way. That's quite a grand statement. I haven't solved all my problems, but
I love that. All I need is a notepad and pen.
I should rephrase that and say most of the problem solving I do is done on notepad and pen. Yeah, just sitting there. And I talked about this on one of my podcasts, where I like to maybe just let the subconscious mind activate a bit. And so rather than going, I have to drill down and focus on this problem, let's engage in another activity, like whether that's watching the NBA or something on TV, and just sitting there with my notepad and pen, and watching a bit of TV, but then going, all right, while I'm doing this, I'm now going to have a bit of a think about what I'm doing rather than just focusing everything on trying to solve the problem, because like I feel like I will get distracted from the main task regardless of what that main task is. So if I make the problem solving not my main task, I don't know, I tend to approach it a bit better, which seems a bit counterintuitive, but
no, I can relate to that. I think that there's many times that if you're focused on one thing, we drift. We're solving other problems while we're doing something.
Yeah.
So if we know that, let's not give the main attention to the main problem, but keep it visible or in our peripheries. And then all of a sudden, we're not going to let go of the problem. It is being worked on.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
You're right about giving it all of our energy all the time. Sometimes that problem needs a break to simmer. Let that problem be solved. And it may seem like a bit of maybe a lazy way, or people be like, you're not working on the problem, but the mind works in mysterious ways. So
yeah, that's right.
If you've had a history of being able to solve things when you're not working on them, then you've learned from that track record that, hey, it's okay to mentally turn this off and have a sleep on it or do something else. So I like to go for a little rollerblade or do some physical exercise. That's
yeah, I quite enjoy. So I live on a property here, and so I've got like a walking track that I've mowed regularly, which I take the dog on. So yeah, like taking the dog for a walk, and I put headphones on and listen to something related perhaps to the problem. If I'm trying to come up with a solution to an automation problem, like I might listen to someone talking about that kind of thing, and that can help prompt ideas and things like that. Yeah, definitely just getting out and doing something else is definitely helpful. And talking to other people is great as well. Like I've got a friend, Nat, who I've done a few podcasts with. And yeah, she was saying the other day, she was like, what do you need to do? I'm like, oh, I've got so many things I need to do. She was like, no, mate, just close that one sale that you're working on and everything else can happen afterwards. I'm like, fine, yeah. Like, and she was right. That's what needed to happen. It wasn't, had so many projects going and so many different things that I was like, I have to do this, I have to do that, and getting distracted. And she's like, just do the one thing that actually matters. And yeah, getting someone else's outside perspective is always useful as well.
Yeah, it's keeping the main thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely last day of the month here. It should be focused on, I guess for you, you're
yeah, no, it's February.
Love that. Nice and early. This has been really interesting. I love talking about problem solving and automation. When it comes to these, you talked a little bit about going for a walk and listening to people talking about automation. What are you listening to? What are these? Is it podcasts? Is it the Audibles, automation experts? Who's talking in your ear?
Yeah, so I tend not to listen to specifically podcasts that often, funnily enough. Like I'm a big YouTube consumer, and so I've got YouTube Premium, so I can listen to it while my phone is in my pocket. And so I will listen to all kinds of content creators on YouTube. Like this morning, I before this, when I took the dog for a walk for about half an hour, I listened to Dave Shapiro talking about AGI and like what that means for the medical industry and like how that's going to revolutionize our health and minimize hospital visits and all kinds of things. He talks a lot about post-labor economics as well, which is super interesting. Yeah, that was what I was listening to this morning. And it gets, I can go through different phases of what I'm listening to, but yeah, YouTube is definitely my main source of listening. And I don't watch YouTube really; I just listen to it, which is a bit weird. But
it still helps their views.
Yeah, they don't know I'm not watching it.
Yeah, are you listening to it? What speed do you listen at?
Yeah, normal.
Normal speed.
I don't speed it up. Yeah, I know it's not very biohacky of me or whatever you want to call it.
To each their own.
Yep.
So That's great. Do you have any books that you either revisit or are books part of your learning?
So I do listen to audiobooks quite a lot. I have quite an extensive Audible library because I've been paying for Audible for years, and I've got to spend the credits on something. I go between fiction and non-fiction, and most of the time I listen to like non-fiction stuff. I think I must have listened to Alex Hormozy's $100 million offers and $100 million leads, like maybe 3 or 4 times each, I'd say.
How's your offer?
Yeah, it's it's getting better. I really enjoy his approach, and I'm usually super skeptical about anyone from that kind of world. I'm not a big internet marketing fan, to say the least. So the fact that I really dig his content means that it must be pretty good, I think. If I'm not listening to nonfiction, I will listen to either British sketch comedy or like some of Bill Bryson's books. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all. He does like these travel books, which are hilarious.
No, I haven't. I haven't heard of him.
Yeah, no, it's definitely look him up. I really love listening to his books, and the Pillars of the Earth series, Ken Follett. It's like they're these 40-hour masterpiece stories that told as an audiobook, which I love just listening to those if I'm trying to not think about work or something like that. I always often listen to those going to sleep. There's a lot there.
Some good recommendations in there. I'm curious, do you think, in your opinion, AI is helping you save time, or because of the abundance of cool stuff you can do with it, it's actually eating more of your time?
Yeah, good question. I think I'm definitely playing a lot less video games at the moment, so I'd say I'm probably got less time for that because of all this kind of thing. And it's the way I look at it is, it's whenever they invented the calculator, it would be like saying to the mathematicians, are you saving time now because you've got a calculator? You don't have to use the abacus or whatever. And they would have been like, no, like now that we have these calculators, we can fill in all that spare time with more cool stuff, which we can now do with calculators. Which I don't know if that's how it went. The concept applies. There's so much more we can do now that used to be filled up with doing stuff manually and by hand. Like I can, instead of spending an hour reading a document, I can just put it through ChatGPT and say, can you summarize the main takeaways that I need for this specific use case? And it does it. And like I don't need to read it now, which is, some would say that's bad, and that's signifying the end of the human race as we know it, because people are not gonna retain knowledge anymore or anything like that. But I think it's just using that time for more leverage. So I definitely don't have a lot of time for myself at the moment, but that's probably my own fault, and I don't know if I could blame AI for that.
I think part of it is seasons, right? If you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to build something, then your focus may be stacked a little heavy in one direction, and that might not be forever, but for a period of time. I also feel a little bit of time sensitivity, maybe put on myself, or pressure, that things are moving so quickly. I really want to capitalize on what's happening now, right?
Yeah.
Because it'll change, and the opportunities that exist 3 months from now may be gone, right? Or they may not be gone, but they're going to evolve. So having an ear to the ground on what's happening and talking to a lot of people, I think, about what's happening. There was a guy I was talking to earlier today who mentioned that the editing tool Descript, they purchased a platform identical to Riverside that we're on right now 6 months ago or something. And during our call, I went on there and signed up, and for free, because I have Descript, I get access to this. maybe the next podcast I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be using this different platform. But here is information that it's out there, it's available, but without having these, sometimes you never know when you're going to come across that one tool that literally changes your business. And I was on a marketing panel yesterday. We were talking about collaboration in marketing, and I mentioned to the group something called Reclaim AI. Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't actually.
So this one is about scheduling. So it's got, think of Calendly on steroids. So it's using AI to optimize meeting cadence with your teams, making flexible appointments so they're not fixed, prioritizing what's your to-dos, pushing them around in your calendar, and doing things that would be very difficult for even the best executive assistant. Those little things, and that tool, for the cost of Calendly, you get all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So it's figuring out what your goals are, what are you trying to do, and then reverse engineering it as much as possible with tools, leveraging automation, AI to build your own custom stack. But something like Zapier, I think, is going to be essential to making all those things work together. Because as much as those 100%. Tools try, they're not perfect. And it sounds like with the work that you've been doing, it can be a huge asset for a lot of companies looking to find creative ways to solve their problems.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's Zapier is a fantastic prototyping tool as well. I've used it twice now for different, basically SaaS prototypes, just to see if something is technically possible. Last year, I've started work on a tool called AutoWork, which is basically a project management and project risk management automation platform where you can use the chat interface to manage your projects at scale. And if the original idea came from going, why is a project manager going and booking project meetings and asking for updates? And I'm sure a chat bot could just be programmed to ask the project team for updates every Monday and consolidate that into a project update to send out to the stakeholders. And what else does a project manager do? And so I'm like, I built a tool that was able to do that, and I'm now in the process of getting that turned into an actual SaaS app. And I did the exact same thing with Engine. It's wanting to get that turned into an actual product as well, so I don't have to hook into other platforms. I can have it all in one spot, which would make it significantly more streamlined again. But if you're ever wanting to build an application and see if something's possible, see if you can do it in Zapier first, and if you can, then you might be onto something. Just a bit of advice for anyone out there.
Great, Aaron, this has been amazing. We're right at the hour here. Tell me, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, sure. I've got Engine, as you mentioned before, has all my contact details on there. So that's endgn.com. And so that's my service platform there. I've also got just Aaron J. Steele. So AaronJSteele.com. That's a bit more of just my personal brand information hub. So I've got all my links to everything there as well. I'm very active on LinkedIn, but always happy to hear from people on other platforms as well.
And a growing YouTube channel, so you can subscribe to that too.
Yes. Yeah, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and that'll be fantastic.
Amazing. I appreciate having you on the show. For everyone listening, thank you for joining us for this fun conversation. I hope you got as much out of it as I did. For shows similar to this, and for more information, you can check out openaitraining.com, as well as OpenAI training on YouTube. Thanks so much. My name is Mark Latimer. This has been Aaron Steele and I having a back and forth on AI and automation. Thanks so much for your time, Aaron. Appreciate you.